Good morning. Mike from Homeward Homesteader is wishing you a warm welcome back. And in this video I want to talk about whitewashing. And no, not that kind of whitewashing. This is the specific one to fruit trees. But before we dive deep into that, I just want to preface it by a short story. All my life, years upon years, I believed, wrongly, that whitewashing your fruit trees, which means to paint the trunk of the fruit tree, is bad. I had all of these misconceptions that it damages the bark, that it invites bugs in, that I had a long Christmas list. And 2 years ago I sat down and I just took stock of where is this coming from, because I started looking online, I started reading, I started checking scientific papers from all kind of university to see if there's any basis to my belief, and there wasn't. So much so that when I tried to remember where this information or where this belief came from, I couldn't remember. I didn't remember if it was somebody that told me this, I didn't remember if I read it somewhere, if I saw it, if I heard it. There was no memory of it. So then you start thinking, how many things do you think in life that are gospel, but they're not? It's just your imagination, your brain playing tricks on you. Needless to say that I've changed my tune, and I'm making this video with that secondary purpose, not just to share with you why I whitewash my trees, but also to encourage you to take stock of your belief systems and look where they're coming from. Do they have any basis? Basically, critical thinking, double checking, triple checking everything. Even what I'm going to tell you today, don't take my word for it. Do your own homework. Whitewashing fruit trees benefits them because it protects them from the sun, both in summer and in winter. Fruit trees can be damaged by the sun. In the summer it's called sunburn, just like we experience it on our skin, and in the winter it's called sun scalding. Now, what do each and every one of them mean? Basically, in the summer, especially with smaller fruit trees, the sun is going to get very hot, and that's going to burn the bark and the cambium eventually of that tree, making it to blister and just damage that piece of tissue. This is going to make your tree crack and then invite all kind of disease, fungal disease, bugs, beetles, anything that is going to attack it. In the winter, an apple just fell. In the winter, there are sunny days. No matter where you live, eventually you're going to have even 1 hour when the sky opens, there's no clouds and the sun shines. Outside everything is frozen, but for that hour, let's say, when the sun shines on the bark of the tree, it's going to melt the moisture, the water, the sap inside of it. And it's a misconception that trees don't have sap in the bark in the winter. No, they do. They have just less amounts of it. But regardless, it melts that sap, that moisture inside of a specific portion of the tree, only one side, because there's not enough sun to go all around it in the winter. And then as soon as the sun goes away, that water basically flash freezes again, and the crystals inside of it damage that, again, that section, that portion of the tree, so much so that in the springtime when everything melts, that's necrotic tissue. That's going to become a hole, it's going to fall, it's going to rot, and that's going to invite, again, fungal disease, any kind of pest that's going to love to get inside of it. Now, tree bark is an armor, it's a protection, it's even more protective than our skin if we would compare it. So we need to protect that as much as possible, and this is where whitewashing comes in. Now, whitewashing doesn't do anything apart from reflecting that sunlight, those UVs. That's it. That's the beauty of it. And it doesn't use any toxic or dangerous chemical that's going to affect the bark of the tree. The way I do it, the tree bark still breathes, the tree bark still grows, everything continues in exactly the same normal natural way as before. The only added benefit is like sunscreen. It's sunscreen for your fruit trees. As for the recipe, it's quite simple. The base recipe is water, slaked lime. That's it. And of course you need a container and a big brush, so you don't spend 3 hours on each tree with a tiny brush. But on top of that, I add a couple of other ingredients, and I'll explain in a second why. I add essential orange oil because that deters pests like wood burrowing pests like beetles and worms and all kind of bugs that love to get inside of the bark of the tree and then eventually into the heart of the tree. And I also use wood glue, one because it's not toxic to the tree, and second of all because it makes the whole paste, the slaked lime paste, stick for longer on the tree. So speaking about that, depending on your climate, if you whitewash your trees, it may last for a year, it may last for 2 years, it may last for 3 years. If you don't get a lot of moisture and rain events, then you wouldn't have to worry for at least 2 years. But where I live, which is a temperate climate, I get all 4 seasons. Usually if I do it at the beginning of July, I have it well until next year's autumn. So then I can reapply, or I can just patchwork it, you know, wherever the paint has washed off or fallen, then I can just do those parts. There's no need to redo the whole thing. In my garden I have about 25 fruiting trees, producing trees, and about 30 baby trees. Now 4 kilos of slaked lime was enough for covering or for whitewashing all of the above mentioned trees. But depending on the circumference, on the age of your tree, that may vary. Now a couple of tips before you start whitewashing your trees. Look at the forecast, at the weather forecast, and make sure that you're going to have 2 days or 48 hours of good weather, meaning sunny, dry. You don't want any rain in this meantime because you want to give the whitewashing paint enough time to dry up properly. Bear in mind that most mature trees have a canopy, and that's going to protect them even more. But with smaller size trees or with younger trees which they don't have a developed canopy, if you have a rain event in the first 48 hours, there's a chance that a lot of that whitewashing is going to go away because it didn't have time to cure or mature. Also, when you apply the whitewash first on the tree, it's going to look pasty. It's not going to look like super white and finished. Be patient. Apply it as well and as best as you can, trying to get into all nooks and crannies, and then give it 1 hour at least so it dries up. Then you can go back to the tree, and if you missed a couple of patches or anything that needs to be reapplied, do it. If not, you're done. You will see the proper drying look the next day. Give it ample time, at least 24 hours to dry, and then you can draw some conclusions. You don't need to apply 2 layers. It's not painting your walls here, okay? 1 layer is fine. Be patient, and then the next day from pasty gray is going to be proper white. I'll put in the description the recipe quantities, but depending what product you have in your neck of the woods, again I'm using what I have available here, you want the whitewash before you apply it to be like milk, you know, not too thick, not too thin, just like milk, in color, in consistency, in everything. That's the goal. That's what we're looking for. So in conclusion, by whitewashing your fruit trees in your garden, in your orchard, one, you're protecting them from the sun in the summer, which is getting only hotter and more intense with global warming. Second of all, you're protecting them in the winter, which can actually kill them from sun scalding. And also, as a benefit or like an extra bonus, you get that good looking, nicely organized orchard or garden look. You know, you walk through a property and then you see all these trees with cracked and bent and all, like with the trunks in. There may be a romantic aspect to that when you see those huge holes in the trunks of trees and stuff like that, but if you are a producer, if you are a gardener who's growing these fruit trees and taking good care of them so they can provide you with nutrients and food and preserves for the winter, you want to love them and respect them as much as possible. So I have no romantic desire to see my fruit trees with gaping holes inside of them because they got sunburn or sun scalded. I want them to be nice, good looking, healthy, pruned properly, and whitewash is something, you know, it catches your eye when you walk into somebody's garden and the trees are whitewashed. I don't know, it wakes something inside of me. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm the only one, but that's how I feel. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something new, and more than anything, I hope that this tickled your interest in looking back at your own belief systems and seeing what doesn't work for you anymore. Where did you got that information? Does it stand up today? Does it follow through today in the world that we live in the life that you have built for yourself up until this moment? And if you found this video useful and interesting or educational, give a like and then subscribe. You know, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means so much to me. I want to know that this information reaches as many people as possible, and maybe it's going to save you fruit trees. Maybe you have 2 apple trees or 3 cherry trees or something, or 1 single fruit trees in the backyard of your house, and you've been working to take care of it for years, and now it's year 5 and it should finally come on production, and you can enjoy that beautiful fruit that it produces. But then in winter it gets sun scalded and it dies, and 5 years of babysitting and hard work went to nothing. So share it with people, you know, like, subscribe, all that is good, but more than anything, just share it with somebody who would benefit from this information. Because for 33 years I lived in a lie. I believed that it's bad. I believed that it's dangerous. I believed that and I was wrong. And it took a moment of clear mind to reflect and to ask myself, why do I believe that? Maybe if you share it with somebody, they're going to have the same light bulb moment, and they're going to just reanalyze and reset their mindset, their vibration, whatever. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.